transactions initiated with a Visa-branded debit card. We allege that to maintain this monopoly power, Visa deploys a web of unlawful anti-competitive agreements to penalize merchants and banks for using competing payment networks. At the same time, it coerces would-be market entrants into unlawful agreements not to compete by threatening high fees if they do not cooperate and promising big payoffs if they do. The result is a debit market where Visa has unlawfully amassed the power to extract fees that far exceed what it could charge in a competitive market. Merchants and banks pass along those costs to consumers, either by raising prices or reducing quality or service. As a result, Visa's unlawful conduct affects not just the price of one thing, but the price of nearly everything. When a bank issues a debit card, it chooses which electronic payment networks will be authorized to process the card's transactions. When a debit card holder uses that card to buy something from a merchant, the merchant, or for a smaller merchant, its bank, must choose which of the issuer's accepted networks it will use to process the transaction. We allege that Visa has virtually eliminated that choice. It has done so not by offering the most competitive rates or the most innovative product, but by unlawfully structuring its contracts to disincentivize merchants and banks from doing business using competitor electronic payment networks. Visa knows it is a, quote, must-carry network for banks and merchants alike. That means all merchants and banks must contract with Visa because certain purchases using a Visa debit card can only be completed through its network. Visa
Yo, what's poppin', Rick Mill family? Shout out to everybody that's been joining in, giving love, support. Shout out to the new subscribers that's also been coming to the family. Appreciate everybody that's been joining love, whether it be good or bad criticism. You know, we appreciate it all. Next one, this one actually touched kind of close to me, seeing as I've been in financial services for the past 18 years. And we're going to be touching base on Visa getting charged. They're getting a lawsuit for holding a monopoly. And as you already know, Visa, well, if you don't know, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, they also charge a surcharge every time that their debit and credit cards are being used, or where their credit cards are, or whenever they're being used for transactions to do any purchases in their debit transaction network. So with Visa holding the monopoly over them all and not allowing them to be able to compete based on the rates that are being charged. I'm not sure if you've been to a store and you've seen certain store owners be like, hey, we don't accept American Express. We don't accept Discover. And that's because the fees that they're charging are more higher, and they're not able to compete with what's going on in Visa, and MasterCard is just right behind Visa. But to see how much they're actually getting, $7 billion. Imagine if in just fees alone, that's not getting paid for the services, it's not getting paid for any advertisements or anything that Visa may be associated with that's brand deal, but $7 billion alone in fees, just fees. So the next time you swipe your debit card, or if you open a business and you receive a debit card transaction, just take a look at that little surcharge line that sees what that charge is. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what's going on in regards to this Visa case. Let go.
Visa uses that leverage to get banks and merchants to agree to what are known as, quote, volume requirements. These provisions require banks and merchants to direct a large amount of their transactions to Visa, or else face higher fees. As a result, when merchants weigh the decision of which electronic payment network to use for a given transaction, they cannot choose the authorized network with the lowest price or the best offering for that transaction. Instead, they operate under the threat that if they do not process enough of their payments through Visa, they will face exorbitant fees on all Visa debt transactions. Today, Visa collects more than $7 billion each year in network fees on U.S. debit transactions, with a...
Did y'all hear that? $7 billion. $7 billion. And then they're pretty much threatening to say, hey, if you don't use our network, if you don't run these fees up, we're going to go ahead and charge you an exorbitant amount of fees. Tell me if that doesn't sound like what Diddy's doing to all these other celebs holding their exclusive footage as leverage to be used against everyone inside this case to keep them compliant. Visa's doing the same thing against small business owners and merchants, but Visa's network is a lot larger than Diddy's because it affects everyone. Almost everyone has Visa in their back pocket. If you open your wallet, it's either going to be Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. That's going to be running through those networks. So let's go ahead and see what else they got to say. Like, this is amazing. I didn't think that a monopoly like this, such as Visa, would even be getting attacked like this because they've been, well, nobody's safe.
Significant part of that sum resulting from Visa's illegal conduct. In addition to entering the into anti-competitive contracts for use of its network, we allege that Visa unlawfully uses its monopoly power to discourage potential rivals, particularly technology companies, from competing in the debit transaction market. In a Visa executive's own words, it views potential entrants with deep merchant consumer networks as a, quote, existential threat to its debit business. As outlined in our complaint, Visa has expressed fear that its self-described, quote, frenemies in big tech would launch technology that competes with Visa by enabling payment directly from consumers' bank accounts. For example, in the case of Square, the company that operates the digital wallet known as Cash App, Visa has entered into a series of contracts that discourage Square from competing aggressively against Visa. Or, as a Visa executive stated, quote, we've got Square on a short leash. Entering into contracts with would-be competitors to prevent them from becoming actual competitors is an unlawful agreement not to compete that violates Section 1 of the Sherman Antitrust.
And that's what's crazy, too, is that if they got someone as big as Square and Cash App that they can threaten, just imagine what they're doing to all the other networks. One thing that I have noticed that a lot of business owners have been doing to get around that is that they have these new terminal systems where that 3% service charge fee that they would typically get charged to the business is actually being charged to the customer. So it's just another way that they just funnel the fees going from the business to the customer. So let's say, for example, you go into, I don't know, the grocery store and you make a small purchase. Visa would typically charge the merchant. Let's say Walmart would get a charge of typically about 3% of whatever it is to process that transaction. And there's also limits as to how much the fees are based on how much business you're actually doing as well too. So, for example, if you were to go into the store and you did a transaction, they have two choices. Either you as the consumer can pay it by going through the terminal and just charging you the fees, or the establishment or the organization or business can pay the fee. But either way, Visa's getting their money, and it shows by collecting $7 billion in fees. So let's see what is going on with this.
And leveraging monopoly power to limit competitors' ability to gain market share violates Section 2 of that act. I am grateful to the Department's Antitrust Division for their excellent work on this case over the past 3 years. That includes the leaders of the division who are standing behind me, as well as the dedicated career attorneys and staff who work tirelessly to protect consumers and ensure competitive markets. Today's lawsuit against Visa is only the latest example of the Justice Department's work to enforce the antitrust laws and hold accountable companies that undermine competition and harm the American people. In some of the Justice Department's antitrust enforcement actions, the harm caused by the alleged illegal conduct is more visible. Higher prices for air travel, for concert tickets, for smartphones. The harmful effects of Visa's alleged anti-competitive conduct are less visible, but they are no less harmful. While Visa is the first name many debit card users see when they take out their card to make a purchase, they do not see the role that Visa plays behind the scenes. There, it controls a complex network of merchants, financial institutions, and consumers. What the Justice Department sees, and what we allege in this lawsuit, is that Visa is a monopolist that is distorting the marketplace for a debit transaction. It is unlawfully blocking competition. It is depriving American banks, merchants, and consumers of lower costs and product innovation. It is charging a hidden toll on each of trillions of transactions, adding up to billions of dollars of fees imposed annually on American consumers and businesses. I'm now going to turn the podium over to Principal Deputy Associate Attorney General Ben Miser. Thank you all.
What do y'all think about this, man? Like, this is just wild. Like, just listening to what's going on, it seems that everything is getting exposed. Like, literally everything is getting exposed. I was just pulling up one of the articles here in regards to what they were saying about Visa, and this is new. This is brand new news. They're saying on September 25th, the U.S. Justice Department is suing Visa for monopolizing on debit card while charging significant fees and stifling competition. The civil antitrust lawsuit filed Tuesday in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York accuses Visa of violating Sections 1 and 2 of Sherman Acts, as more than 60% of debit transactions in the United States run on Visa's debit network. Visa charges more than $7 billion in fees each year to process those transactions. Like, that's an absorbent amount of fees if you do not. $7 billion? We allege that Visa has unlawfully amassed the power to extract fees that far exceed what could be charged in a competitive market, said Attorney General Merrick Garland. And honestly, I think that's the reason why we're seeing the push for crypto and all these other methods to be able to utilize payments, because believe it or not, charging that many fees contributes to everything. It's a whole chain effect. If you think inflation isn't being affected by this, you're out of your mind. Businesses are going to pass those charges right on over to you as a consumer, and that's going to contribute to them having to increase the prices of their goods because other consumers are doing the same thing, and it's a chain effect. So $7 billion, if y'all wondering where that hidden money is going, it's going right over to those markets, those Visas and MasterCards. So go ahead and drop a comment, man. Let me know what y'all think about this. Definitely be go dropping more usual. I appreciate all the love and support. Go ahead and give me a like and a thumbs up. It definitely helps the algorithm. I appreciate everybody dropping in, subbing to the Rick Mill family. Appreciate y'all. Let's go. Have a good day. Peace, gang.